Well, hey guys, I'm sorry I had to do that to you. Welcome to part 2. I just had run too much video and needed to cut. I needed to cut it into 2 parts at least. When you get to talking about beginning gardening and amendments to the soil or seeds or containers, different things like that, you could talk forever. Well, I could, but you could go on and on about the different things that you would need to begin gardening. And we may not get to the seeds and different seed packets and things like that, and that'll have to go on to another video. But I'm going to continue on with part 2, and I'm glad you guys stuck around to see, you know, how it ended. And with that, let's get on with part 2. Thanks a lot, you guys, for hanging around. So I've got my chopstick. I have got painter's tape on it to 1/4 inch, 1/2 inch, and then all the way up here to the next one is a whole inch. You only plant things an inch deep if there's something like a sunflower. So what we're planting today is spinach, and it goes to this second line, it goes to 1/2 inch. So I've got my pot filled with soil, and I'm going to make little holes down to just that red area, and that is 1/2 inch. Oops, that one's been cut. That's okay, it'll work. So the spinach has seeds that are small, but they're not so small that it's, you know, crazy small. And I'm going to put 2 in each one. Now, sometimes they'll fall down in the hole and sometimes they won't, so you're going to have to help them. Oops, 3 went in that one. 2 and 2. And try not, if you've never planted seeds before, please do not go like this with the pack, especially if they're those little tiny black seeds, and just start pouring out. Pour them into something or pour them into the palm of your hand. That way you can put back the extra and you haven't spilt, well, like my broccoli, you haven't spilt a ton of them into the soil. So go ahead and tap it down to that second mark, which is 1/2 inch, because they didn't go in the hole. Oh, those did. And then I'm just going to sprinkle a little more over the top. And then you need to water it and put it in your tray. Now, my soil that I make up is, there's not a lot of, there's practically nothing in here for plants to grow on, like fertilizer or anything like that. The plants will start growing in here, but later on I'll need to add something to it. Now there's only 2 things that I use besides this soil, and one of them is in my water. And I use a small water, like a you can pick these up for what, 89 cents, or go to the dollar store, or I think I probably paid about $1 for this ketchup and mustard dispenser. But it's so nice for these smaller things. You don't want to wash your seeds, especially if they're those tiny ones that only go about 1/4 inch deep. You don't want to wash them out of the soil. So why it's discolored is because one of the 2 items that I use is humic acid, and it's humic and fulvic acid. And I use that because as the roots start to grow, it helps with the roots growing. It stimulates the roots to grow. Plus it helps the roots absorb any nutrients in the soil. And the humic acid has well, they say that there are minerals in the humic acid. Basically, this is just a root stimulant, and I find that my seeds come up just fine, and they do actually very well. So I don't buy a lot of odds and ends. This is one I do. And I'll put that guy in there. Let's plant something in here that I've been wanting to grow and just haven't yet. And what it is I got these seeds for a dwarf Japanese maple. And I'm going to put it in the greenhouse where it's nice and warm. So I'm going to put those down, well, not very far, because in nature they just fall off the tree and they start growing in the mulch underneath the tree. So I'm going to try that little Japanese maple. Now here's another thing that comes into play. You want to pick up something to label your seeds with. So if you have a Sharpie at home, that's great. If you don't, pick up some kind of pen that has, it's indelible ink. It won't come off in the rain, or it won't come off for a while in the rain. So we planted spinach, and let's write that. Whoa, crazy writing. Put spinach on one side, and then the date on the other, and I believe today is the 20th, if I'm not wrong. And stick that in your little 6-pack. This is another kind, and that's really big for a little 6-pack. I would put that in a in a bigger container, something like this. That's going to be a good size. Or if you want to plant, or if you want to label your vegetables out in the garden, this is a good size. But, I'll go ahead and stick it. This is a Japanese maple. It's hard to write in the air. A dwarf Japanese maple. Now, if I had a bag handy, what I would do is I would put a bag over this and make my own little greenhouse, but I'm going to stick these in the greenhouse. Now, it gets to be about 70 degrees in my little greenhouse, and that thing was pretty cheap if you have room to put one in your home. I think it was $34. So, depending on how much, you want to spend on things and how much you want to get into gardening, $34 isn't a huge amount, but I know what it's like to live on one income. So, I had to save up a little bit for that. So, new gardeners, when we get into things like you need rock dust, you need, green sand, you need this fertilizer, that fertilizer, search those things out. Don't just start spending a whole lot of money on things that you may not need. If you want to try them and you have the money to do that, then go ahead and do it. Okay, so much for planting seeds. We'll just stick those aside. A couple other things you might want to invest in, and you don't have to, but they're very affordable. One is a moisture meter, and if you have a family, if you've gone out and you've got a tomato, you've potted it, the kids want to water it, every one of your kids wants to water it. The moisture meter is a really great thing to have because nothing's going to kill a tomato faster or make it go downhill faster than too much water. And so a moisture meter is really great. It's about, I would say it's about $4 at Lowe's. And it has, on one side it has dry, and then moist, and then wet. And I love this little thing. You can, put it in your pot with your tomato. If it's in wet, please don't water it. Even through moist, I would hold off a little bit on the water. So, your tomato plant's is going to need water. Probably, twice a week if you plant it outside, and a little more often in a pot because things plants in pots dry out faster than something you would have in the ground. So I love my moisture meter. The other thing you might want to get, but you don't have to, is a pH meter. And it's about the same cost, just about, I think it was about $4, maybe $4.99, I don't remember. But it can tell you whether your soil is acid or alkaline. And for starting seeds, your seeds planting soil should be right about 6. And mine is right on 6. That's kind of bouncing around a little bit, but it stopped finally on 6. So I know my seed planting soil is good in the pH range. So those are two things that you might want to get. And if you do plant outside, the other thing that I get, and you might want to, is diatomaceous earth. If you plant your seeds, all your seeds in the ground, especially those little ones that come up and then the little bugs come by and just chew them right off, the snails, the slugs, the pill bugs, they come and they love those tender little sprouts, and you go out after you know everything has come up and it's just nothing. So diatomaceous earth is just, it's made from one-celled organisms that have been around for millions of years, and they harvest them and chew them up into this dust. And if you can see that diatomaceous earth, this is food grade diatomaceous earth, and that's the kind that you want to get if you get any. Diatomaceous earth is good for pill bugs, snails, slugs, different little creatures like that are going to come by and eat your little seedlings. I start mine inside just for that reason, but if I do start something outside, I'll just put a fine dusting of the diatomaceous earth around the plant, and then those bugs are either die or they don't cross that path. And this is such fine particles, and it says it's food grade, and you can take diatomaceous earth yourself. I would look that one up first. Please don't. I haven't taken any, and please don't, say Kim said I can take this stuff. But one thing you do want to do is please wear a mask if you're using this and you're around the dust, because it does have silica particles in it. And silica isn't good to breathe in. It's very fine particles that are, I would consider it like glass-like. They're very sharp, fine particles. That's what the bugs don't like, and that's what kills the bugs, but it's also what you would breathe in. You can dust your animals with it, and it will kill fleas. You can put it on your chickens, and it will kill the mites on your chickens. But please don't breathe it. If you do buy any. Epsom salts is another one that new gardeners hear about, and I had a gardener next door that he was, I guess, in his 70s, and he said, you need to get Epsom salts. You need to get Epsom salts. I'm looking down here because my bag's down here. Epsom salts is fairly cheap. I noticed it's getting more expensive, but it's good for soaking in the bathtub if you're sore from gardening. And he said, you have to put it in with your tomatoes. You have to. Well, you don't have to. But if you want to, I buy it and I use it periodically. Epsom salts is just another amendment that goes in the soil. It works with your plant. It helps it to absorb nutrients that are in the ground. And that's the claim that everybody gives you with everything that they want to sell, is it helps your plants absorb nutrients. Well, I have found that Epsom salts does work. It is one of those age-old things that gardeners have been using for years and years. So, you're still going to get tomatoes without using it, but if you want to, certainly use it. Put a tablespoon in the hole where you put your tomato plant, and it's not going to hurt, and it's probably going to help. So The other amendments that people are asking you about, we'll talk about on a video that's just for amendments, because I don't have the time to go into that right now. Let me show you how I make this soil. If you want to make your own soil, let me tell you how I make mine, and then I want to show you a little secret thing that I started, and then we'll end. Okay, well, I've taken you back in a little closer because I was going to show you what I put in my seedling soil, and it's not what you need to use by any means, because that would mean you buying, several bags of things. And you can still, grow beautiful vegetables on a bag of, I don't want to mention any names, on a bag of potting soil. So here's another container that was out of an ice chest. And let me show you what I put in my soil. I buy a potting mix. Well, I think I don't know whether they consider it a potting mix. Basically what it is little fine wood chips, and they have some perlite in there, not very much. And I think that's basically it. So it's pretty much mulch, a fine mulch, and it's just a fine compost. And that's great for seeds to start in, but I add a few other things. I add coconut coir, which is off the husk of a coconut. They've taken the husk off and put it through a grinder and ground it up really fine. And what that does is it holds moisture. So I used 2 parts of the potting mix, and it had no fertilizer in it. Well, I'm saying no fertilizer. What the NPK was 0.1, 0.1, 0.1. So basically it had very little in there for anything to grow, and that's exactly what I wanted. I just wanted a really fine composty mulch. So I put 2 parts of the coconut coir. Get that mixed up. That looks pretty good right there. But I also put 1 part of worm castings. And all that is worm poop, worm feces. And when my plants start growing, they're going to love to be in that worm fertilizer, the worm castings. Make sure that it's broken up and you don't have any large pieces. Get it mixed together. And then half a part, or I really like this stuff, so I put a little bit more than half a part of vermiculite. So it's basically a 2 of the compost, 2 of the coconut coir, 1 worm casting, and half of a vermiculite, or a little bit more. You can tell that it's more than I put in last time. So what I'll do is add that to what I already have. And get that mixed up with the rest of it. And now I have even more soil to plant my seeds in. So that's how I make my soil, and that's what I plant my seedlings in. And then I water it with, this is water out of the kitchen. It has come through a reverse osmosis system. And then I put the humic acid, it's liquid humic acid. I know it comes in powder too, and I also have that. But this is a liquid humic acid. And I didn't put quite as much as they said to. Things are expensive, and I wanted it to last a long time. So that is, that's pretty much diluted humic acid. So my plants, they're not being overwhelmed by fertilizer or amendments. I did say that I used one other thing, and that would be mycorrhiza. It's a fungus or a fungi, and it works with the roots also. What it does is it grows like a fungus does, and it actually gets into the cell walls of your plants, and they work synergistically. They, the plant gets more water and better uptake of nutrients with the mycorrhiza, and the mycorrhiza in turn gets sugars, carbohydrates from the plant. So I use this. I'll show you what this one looks like. I won't show you where I got it from. Just little granules. And when I use this, it's when I put the transplants into the ground. So, say I dig a little hole to put my spinach in. I will take a little bit of mycorrhiza, not as much as they say. I think they say to use a teaspoon. So I'll sprinkle a little bit of mycorrhiza. And this is something that's already in the ground to a certain extent. Now, I don't know how much is in my garden beds, but I put a little bit in the hole. I put my spinach in and then cover it up, and that is not going to hurt my soil in any way. Actually, I'll just mix it in. So it's not something I put in my soil normally. It's something that I put in with my transplants, and that's just me. So these two things that I use, extra things that I use is just something that I use. I'm not telling you to go out and buy it by any means. Now for things like rock dust, other fertilizers and green sand and things that people are telling you to buy, you do your research and you pick those, you buy those if you want to. It's totally up to you. I have used rock dust before. I've put some rock dust in my garden beds. And I only put it in 2 garden beds because I wanted to do a little experiment to see if the vegetables in those 2 beds did better than the vegetables in other beds. So it's just something I'm doing on my own, but definitely that's something that you're going to spend some money on when you get into the rock dust, the azomite, different products like that. Even the worm castings, you could pay anywhere from maybe $10 to $35 on a bag of worm castings. It all depends on what brand they are and the quality of worm castings. Or you can make your own by just getting some worms and giving them the scraps from out of the kitchen and some carbon, like some ripped up paper, and before too long you're going to have your own worm castings. And we can cover that in another video. Anyway, let me show you this little not surprise, but little fun thing that I'm doing on the side. I went to Lowe's to get some PVC pipe for my hoop houses. And I came across the couplings and I thought, what a perfect item to be putting my seedlings in. Because I have such a hard time getting seedlings out of the pack or out of whatever I've started them in. So I filled my coupling up, put it in my container, I plant my seeds, and then when the transplant is ready, maybe a couple inches tall or more, the roots will have made a mesh inside the coupling. All I have to do is take it. Now it's going to fall out. I need to take it outside, and then I can push through the underneath and push the plant out and then plant it in the garden box. The thing is, these couplings, these 2-inch couplings, were 81 cents a piece. And I wanted to get about 30 of them, and I didn't want to spend that much money. So my husband was looking around, and he went over to another aisle where they have black PVC pipe. And they didn't have couplings like this, but they had the pipe. And this is a 2-inch pipe. And since they didn't have the couplings, we bought an entire piece of pipe, which was 10 feet long, and ended up cutting it 3 inches. And I'll try and find that video where we were cutting it up so I can stick that in. But we cut it 3 inches. We came up with something like 35 34 or 35 different little tubes for growing, and they were only 22 cents a piece. So that 10 feet of PVC pipe was $9, and cutting these at 3 inches, they came out to 22 cents a piece. Now I could afford that, so that's what I'm trying out. That's my little surprise and my little secret, is growing in couplings. And now I've got 35 of them. They're all planted. And let me show you, let me grab one that was planted maybe a couple weeks ago. So there's an Egyptian spinach. The soil is already pretty much, I don't know, hardened in there. I'm sure it would come out if I really yanked on it, but my Egyptian spinach is growing in there, and it's doing actually very well. I've got it in a nice little tray with good drainage, and when those grow up to be, probably about 4 inches high or so, I'll take them out to the garden, push it out, push the transplant out, and plant it in the soil. So here's one little extra thing I'm going to try. And you guys can't laugh at this. Maybe you've heard of it, or maybe you've done it. But to help hold the soil in, and to just like make a little science experiment, I saw this somewhere, I think it was an old garden book, is you go out and get a plug of sod. Now you can't get any kind of ryegrass or anything that will take off and go crazy. It needs to be sod. So you cut down and you get a little 2-inch plug of sod, probably about 2 inches deep, and put it in here, and that helps not only holds the soil in, but when the seedling gets down to this part, or the roots do, that's a nice amount of nitrogen down there that the plant's going to use. This is my theory anyway, that the transplant will use that nitrogen. Plus, you've got the roots of the sod, and all grasses have mycorrhiza in them. Your wild grasses, your sod, your Bermuda grass, any grass has mycorrhiza in the roots. So after I put that little 2-inch plug in there, then I filled it up the rest of the way with my potting mix, and planted my seeds, and we'll see how that goes. So all these have this little grass plug in the bottom. The ones in this one do. These that I have in the tray in the greenhouse don't. So I'm just waiting for these to come up, and that probably shouldn't be too long because I planted them, I guess I planted them about 4 days ago. So I'll show you how that goes along as the days go by, as the week goes by. As the days go by and as the weeks go by, I'll show you how this little experiment goes, not only with the couplings, but with the little grass sod plugs. And I hope nobody comes and looks at my lawn, because there's all these little 2-inch round sod plugs missing from my lawn. No, actually, there's only 6. So please leave me a comment below. I'd like to know if you've ever done this before with the sod plugs and how it went. If you've ever grown in PVC pipe, and if it's something that you would recommend or not recommend me growing my plants that I'm going to eat in PVC pipe, in this plastic. Any of this, please leave comments below, questions. Just let me know what you think about this whole little experiment that I've got going on with the PVC pipe. And well, these aren't couplings really. This is a coupling, but these are just 3-inch pieces of PVC pipe. But please leave a comment below, and let me know what you think. Let me know if you think I'm just wasting my time, or if this is something that's going to work out, and about growing in something that's made out of PVC. So that's all I've got for today, you guys. As for today, I'm going to continue to play in the dirt and maybe plant some beet seeds. So I hope you guys are feeling good. Actually, I may just go in and get my cozies on and go back to bed. So I'll see you later. You guys have a good day, and thanks for stopping by. I really appreciate it. And like I said, leave a comment below and let me know what you think on anything from today, on my little experiment. And just thanks for stopping by. Subscribe if you want to. Check off like if you want to. And other than that, I'll talk to you guys later. Bye-bye.